What's good, folks? Family, friends, loved ones, enemies, frenemies, wizards, witches, muggles, mudbloods, people of Middle Earth, to another episode of Disguised Coverage, the only podcast that gives you an equal amount of blueberries in each muffin, and that is presented by the best pizza in Buffalo, New York, and that is One Pipe Pizza. Find the online menu in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you are listening to this show on. I am your host, Anthony Prohaska. Find me on Twitter at pro__ant. That's pro, 2 underscores, A-N-T, in tonight's episode of Disguised Coverage. We are diving into the Buffalo Bills offensive line. Last week's episode, in a similar vein, also in the trenches, talked about the Bills edge grouping, went into some game film, some advanced metrics, all with the idea of kind of highlighting skill sets and traits and tying that into the schematic conversation of what we will see holistically from a structural perspective for the Bills defense, and then also individually from the players that we broke down last week. So similar conversation this week in this episode regarding the Buffalo Bills offensive line, a group that, like I've talked about this offseason, I hung my hat on them coming into the 2024 season. It was one of my main points in kind of doing the season end episode back in February and talking about, like, where do the Bills go from here? How do they finally get over that hump in the AFC, whether it's getting past the Chiefs in the playoffs or just getting out of the AFC and getting to the Super Bowl? What do they have to do to finally get over that hump? And one of the main points I talked about was, they already have a really good offensive line in place, so they can hang their hat on that. What they were able to do in 2023 as an offense, a lot of that stemmed from the offensive line in terms of how versatile they were in the run, how good they were in pass protection, what they were able to do overall. We saw a level of consistency from the Bills' offensive line, and I would say a high-level output that we really hadn't seen in the Josh Allen era. There had been, granted, I think a good portion of that was due to the health of the offensive line last year and everybody staying injury-free and being able to play the entirety of the year together, which is a rarity, not just for the Bills, but for anyone. But we saw a level of offensive line play that was a very welcome sight for this Buffalo Bills team, again, especially in the Josh Allen era. And like I've talked about this offseason, I really thought that was a position grouping where just so many positives start in terms of a conversation, right? Like the trenches are still the most important part of any team. That's where games are won and lost. That's why edge defenders are paid like edge defenders. That's why interior defensive linemen are being paid like edge defenders. That's why offensive linemen get paid what they do. They really, the conversation starts and ends with trench play. And I was pumped to, again, hang my hat on that offensive line based on what we saw in 2023. Again, the emergence of that run game, the zone runs, the gap runs, what we've documented, Aaron Cromer's teachings really starting to take hold, and what it was able to allow the offense to do. And I thought how good of a platform that was for going into 2024. And not that the world is falling or everything's terrible. You're not going to have that solid platform to launch from in 2024, but there's significant differences, right? There's 5 starters on the offensive line. 2 of the 5 are going to be new based on what we perceive, based on what looks to be penciled in. Granted, there's kind of a caveat to that because Connor McGovern was a starter last year. Now he just seemingly moves from left guard to center. So technically it's only 1 new starting body in theory in David Edwards at left guard, but it's 2 new positions, even though McGovern has played center in the past. So you took this strength of the team that I genuinely believe was a strength on last year's squad, and you took that. Oh, Joe DeRosa's here in the chat. Hey, Joe, how are you? I appreciate you. He's in the Halo Arbiter voice. I like that. Well done. I hope you're making a souffle and you're not lying about it like you did the last time you were in the chat. Everybody remembers. The chat never forgets, and nor do I, but I appreciate you being here. A legitimate strength of this team last year, again, that offensive line, and now you've switched 2 of the 5 positions. You've removed Mitch Morse. You've moved Connor McGovern from guard to center. You've also changed the depth of the grouping as well in terms of David Edwards no longer being a depth guy, now being a starter. Ryan Bates being traded and being moved out a little bit. So there are some changes. And I in this episode, I wanted to put into perspective how good the Bills' offensive line was last year statistically and from an advanced metric standpoint. So we're going to go over, oh, that's nice. Joe says, no souffle tonight. I am truthfully playing Helldivers. Helldivers is sick. I hope you're having yourself a grand old time playing Helldivers. So we're going to dive into some advanced metrics to kind of put into perspective just how good the Bills offensive line was last year. And then we're going to dive into some game tape for each of the 5 penciled in starters for what it looks like right now. So Dion, Dawkins, David Edwards, Connor McGovern, Osiris Torrence, and Spencer Brown. So we've got some advanced metrics. We've got some numbers and stats to talk about. We've got some film, some scheme, some skill set pieces, some structure, some X's and O's and things to break down. So it should be a fun episode. If you folks have not already, drop a like on this video, whether you're watching live now or listening or watching later. Please, 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 and thank you. Drop a like on this video if you are here on YouTube. Likes are the lifeblood of these streams. I greatly appreciate it. What is going to do? Kay Amori says, "Go Bills." If Southgate can BS his way to the finals, I'm sure the Bills can address the O-line somehow. This comment is in reference to Gareth Southgate, who is the head coach of the English national team. England advanced past the Netherlands today with a late goal. Man, I can't believe, like, each knockout game, like, they barely moved past the Swiss. They barely moved past Slovakia in the first knockout round of the quarters. Or the first knockout round of 16. Like, I don't know how they continue to go. I think Spain should throttle them, but just England continues to live on. It's like they got like the Jude Bellingham, like Real Madrid gift, where Madrid just gets outplayed or doesn't look like they're about to win. And then at the last minute, something happens and they squeak by or eke by. Like, it just seems like England is meant to be in that spot, even though England has a boatload of talent. It's been a wild Euros. I'm very excited for that final and the Copa America final on Sunday. That is what I will be doing all day. But good comment there. Good shout. All right, let's dive into the Buffalo Bills 2024 offensive line outlook. But to do that, to move forward, or I should say, in order to move forward, I do think we have to take a step back and look at what the Bills offensive line was in 2023. And again, that was a very strong group. So these are metrics pulled from different spots. We got FTN Fantasy, we got PFF, Sports Info Solutions, some stuff from Next Gen Stats. Like, no matter how you slice it, where you look, this Bills was strong from a metric standpoint. In 2023, they were 5th in pass blocking efficiency. They were 1st in adjusted line yards. They were 6th in power success rate. They had the lowest, and in this case, lower means better, so lowest equals best. They had the lowest stuff percentage. That's running back runs where they're tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage. They had the lowest adjusted sack rate. That gives sacks plus intentional grounding penalties per pass attempt adjusted for down, distance, and opponent. They had the second lowest amount of running back runs hit at the line of scrimmage or before the line of scrimmage. They had the lowest percent of running back runs that got stuffed at the line of scrimmage or before. They were 5th in rushing yards before contact. They were 7th in rushing yards before contact per carry. They were 3rd in running back only rushing yards before contact. They were 2nd in running back rush yards before contact per carry. Just however you want to slice it, however you want to break it down, what they were able to do consistently. Again, even just like little things like power success rate, the percent of runs on 3rd or 4th down, 2 yards or less to go, that it got a first down or a touchdown. That also includes runs on 1st and 2nd or goal from the 2-yard line or closer. And again, being 1st in FTN Fantasy's adjusted line yards, which is basically takes runs and attributes the success to either the running back or to the offensive line. So they were 1st in adjusted line yards, which means they had the most, from a percentage standpoint, they were 1st in runs that were successful due to the play of the offensive line. And again, all the rushing yards before contact for Josh Allen or for the running backs, however you slice it, this offensive line was very good last year. And then you take into account what they were doing, again, from a versatility standpoint on the ground, 46% gap run rate, which was 3rd in the entire league, and a 53% zone run rate, which was 30th. If I like Scooby-Doo there for a minute, zone run rate for like So 46% gap, 53% zone. A near 50-50 split, which does not happen often. Even usually like the higher teams that run gap runs, that from a usage rate standpoint, usually that's like 41, 42. Like the Bills are sitting there pushing almost a 50-50 split. Again, that's a testament to the versatility of the offensive line. A lot of that due to their tackles. So those tackle trap plays, those tackle wrap plays, dart, where you're seeing Spencer Brown pull, you're seeing Dion Dawkins pull. Those are gap runs. The Bills are a good duo running team. That's considered a gap run. The Josh Allen stuff, like the QB bash, GT counter stuff, that's a gap run. So the Bills have that in their bag, but they're also good with mid zone. They'll work in some outside zone. Just that versatility up front from the offensive line. I'm gonna grab a question here from K Moore. He says, "Does the Dallas game skew these stats that much?" I wouldn't say tremendously. It's one game, especially with having the 18 game season or 17 game season now, I should say. One game isn't going to skew the sample size that significantly. If that Dallas game happened in the first 3 weeks and we were sitting here talking in week 4 about what those stats were, yeah, it would significantly skew it because of the sample size. But just based off of how many games there were, it definitely helps, but I wouldn't say it skews them too much. Good question. I want to comment here from Steve as well, saying, "For me, Edwards is the biggest question. If he does not work out, I am a bit nervous about the changes they will make." That's a fair point. I have faith in him because he's an Aaron Cromer disciple. He was with him with the Rams, obviously coming over here. And he exhibits a lot of the technique and the tools that Aaron Cromer likes to teach, likes to give to his offensive linemen. I think he presents a high floor guy. I think he'll fit in well. I think he'll function well. On the off chance he doesn't, I think the backup plan or the safety net is decent. If he doesn't work out at left guard, I think you put Connor McGovern back to left guard, and then hopefully Cedric Van Pran Granger is doing well enough and you can maybe plug him in at center, or maybe Lyle Collins kicks in at guard. I do think they have some options or kind of break glass in case of emergency, but I do agree. I think Edwards is the biggest question, and McGovern to a degree, right? Because he's moving to center, even though he's played it in the past. He's primarily been a guard. So I think McGovern has some questions around him, but I do think Edwards is the biggest to your point. But I do have faith in him and a lot of faith in Cromer. And it helps that he's playing between McGovern and Dion Dawkins. So hopefully they kind of, good on good helps one another a little bit. But again, just wrapping up those metrics from 2023, this Bills offensive line was a good group. I feel like we've talked about a year in and year out, just with how good Allen has been, especially in terms of limiting pressures being converted to sacks and what he can do in the pocket with his arm and with his legs and athleticism and strength and all this kind of stuff, right? Like, it's always just been, you don't need this amazing offensive line. If you have one, that would be great, but just don't have a bottom tier offensive line. And in previous years, the Bills offensive line really has just been a roller coaster. I feel like they would always average out to be kind of like 16th in the league or 15th or 13th, like somewhere around there. But it was just ebbs and flows. Like, one week they would look like a top 10 offensive line. The next week they would look like a bottom 5 offensive line. And it was just that roller coaster. Very similar, ironically, to, even though he was banged up, like Spencer Brown's trajectory his first several years prior to 2023, where you have a rep where it just looks, man, this guy's putting it all together. This looks great. And then the next rep is like, oh, this guy, should he even be on the field? Just that roller coaster that the Bills offensive line had been on the past couple of years, that roller coaster went away for the most part in 2023. Again, whether coincidence or not, the starting offensive line was healthy for the entirety of the year, which I don't think will happen again this year. It's just the amount of chaos that happens in the trenches. The odds of your starting 5 offensive linemen being healthy for the entirety of the year, and I'm saying from like camp all the way through your last game of the season, is rare. I don't see that happening again. I do think their depth will be tested. I do think we're going to see, the 6th offensive lineman or 7th offensive lineman be tested, whether it's at tackles or guards at center. It's just ridiculous to say that healthy on the O-line. But again, whether coincidence or not, the Bills being able to have consistent play last year and also being extremely healthy on the offensive line helped. And then even the David Edwards piece, like David Edwards being the 6th offensive lineman, helped tremendously. What he was able to add, what they were able to do in those sets from a run perspective, and then build the pass off of that run and how it all connected and meshed together. Just a really strong group. They were, and again, even if you think about it further, like the starting 5 they had last year, and then knowing on the bench you had Edwards and Bates. Oof. Like honestly, like 1 through 7, they had a really strong group last year in 2023. And I think that's going to be tested this year from a backup perspective, from a depth perspective, but also from a starter's perspective, again, with 2 of the 5 being new starters versus 2023. And what does Steve say? Steve says, our positional coaches are elite compared to the rest of the league. Yeah, the Bills, I don't think Cromer gets the love that he should nationally, especially from an offensive line perspective. I think Jeff Stoutland gets a ton of love in Philly. Bill Callahan has gotten a ton of love for what he did in Cleveland. You had Scarnecchia for the Pats, even though he's been on the league for a little bit. Detroit's O-line coach gets some love as well. I don't think Cromer gets the love nationally that he should. But he is a real quality position coach and has been for a while. I honestly think one of the best in the league, very well respected. I was pumped when they brought him on. I think there's not a lot of guys currently operating in that space who are ahead of him, or at the very least, he's a top tier type of dude. So yeah, he's one of the better positional coaches in the league, and is a huge, tremendous boon to the Bills offense, especially considering how you can work with him if you are a newer coordinator in the NFL, whether it was Ken Dorsey or whether it's Joe Brady now. Having someone like that in the room, a veteran like that who understands how to tie blocking into the overall structures and concepts, who knows how to marry and merge the run and the pass and kind of tie everything together formationally and responsibility wise. Just there's all the added benefits too, like seeing Cooper Kupp and Robert Woods and the type of blockers that they were with the Rams. I'm not going to give it all that credit to Cromer, but he was a significant part of it. You see some of those habits and techniques continuing to be taught with the Rams, but then also now in Buffalo. Like he has a large scale impact. Yeah. So he is one of the better positional coaches in the league. Absolutely. And without a doubt. So again, crazy numbers for the Bills last year: 5th in pass blocking efficiency, 1st in adjusted line yards, 6th in power success rate. They were best in terms of stuff percentage, which are running back runs tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage. They had the best adjusted sack rate, which is sacks plus intentional grounding penalties per pass attempt, adjusted for down, distance, and opponent. They had the 2nd lowest amount of running back runs hit at the line of scrimmage or before. They were 5th in rushing yards before contact, 7th in rushing yards before contact per carry, 3rd in running back only rushing yards before contact, 2nd in running back only rush yards before contact per carry. However you want to slice it, variety of ways, they were either best in the league or top 5 or top 10 at worst. And again, just to see that level of output from a pass perspective and from a run perspective, and then also knowing, again, the merging of everything, being able to run gap, being able to run zone, and also simultaneously being able to pass protect, being able to function in multiple phases, that level of versatility, multiplicity. Really nice pieces from the Bills in 2023. And with that being said, I want to dive into the film. I feel like I should sing more. I don't know if that would be good or bad. So now, I always forget to add it to the stage. There we go. All right, so let's dive into some tape. So again, we're just going to dive into the tape for what looks to be the Buffalo Bills starting offensive line this year from a pencil and perceived perspective right now. And I picked plays for each guy that I think really encapsulate the season that they had in 2023. As you folks know here on this show, and or if you follow me on Twitter, and or if you watch me in the film room with Eric, I'm a big film guy. I watch a ton of tape, not just Bills, college stuff, NFL teams across the board from an individual player evaluation standpoint, from a larger scale, wide net structure and scheme and trend perspective. So I'm always grinding tape, especially when it comes to the Bills, but really just in general. And so I picked plays for each player that I thought were representative of what their strengths are, what they did in 2023, and things that this offensive line can kind of hang their hat on going forward. So the first person that we are going to talk about in this series is Mr. Dion Dawkins, starting left tackle for the Buffalo Bills, who was handsomely rewarded with a new contract this offseason for the Bills. Some metrics for Mr. Dion Dawkins: out of 202 qualifying offensive linemen, that's offensive linemen in general, guards, tackles, center, 202 qualifying offensive linemen, he was tied for 63rd in pass blocking efficiency. If you want to just look at tackles, he was tied for 14th out of 86 qualifying tackles in pass blocking efficiency. Also, another thing I like to look at is true pass sets. That's a nice piece from PFF. So true pass sets are snaps that exclude plays with less than 4 rushers, play action passes, screen passes, short dropbacks, and time to throws under 2 seconds. So it's more of, again, true pass set in terms of not kind of playing to the disadvantage of the defense. When you look at his pass blocking efficiency from a true pass set standpoint, he was tied for 100th out of 202 qualifying offensive linemen in efficiency in true pass sets, and he was 27th out of 86 tackles. Usually your efficiency drops in true pass sets just because you don't have the added bonus again of all the things I just mentioned, right? There's no play action, there's no screens, there's no short dropbacks, there's no quick passing, throws under 2 seconds. There's no plays with less than 4 rushers. So you have a 5-on-3 advantage if you're bringing less than 4, or if you're not even bringing 3, if you're bringing 2 or you're bringing 1. So kind of puts things on more of a neutral scale. So usually your grade drops a little bit. Your ranking doesn't necessarily have to drop, but your grade usually will. Overall, I think, again, being 14th out of 86 qualifying tackles, I don't think is bad. I think Dion Dawkins has kind of played himself into the spot where he's one of the top offensive tackles in the league. I think I don't know if he's hard top 10 for me, but I'd put him somewhere in the 10 to 15 range, which I think is extremely solid. I think that's kind of like how I label him. He's got some moments where he looks like an absolute stud. I think his athleticism and physicality and some of the technicality that he showed last year was really tremendous. I want to highlight some of that technicality here in these plays because, again, I think he had a strong year last year. And again, he was rewarded for it with that contract. And those contracts are always wonky, right? Like there's other dudes who are going to come up and get paid. So where he sits right now in terms of total value and average annual value, that's going to get bumped down the next offseason, the one after that, similar to when Josh Allen got paid. And now Josh Allen is I think the 10th highest paid quarterback or something because everybody just keeps leapfrogging him. It's the nature of the business. Same thing when Trey White got his contract. He was the highest paid corner in football for I think literally 15 or 20 minutes. And then Humphrey got paid. I think Jalen Ramsey got paid. 2 dudes got paid right after him and bumped him down to 3rd. Again, nature of the beast, nature of the business. So want to show some plays here for Mr. Dion Dawkins. And this comes in week 18 against the Miami Dolphins. This first rep here is against Melvin Ingram, someone who's been an absolute Bills and Josh Allen thorn in his career in these times. Oh, every week this does this to me. I don't know why it happens here. Doesn't happen in the film room. Starts loading. Huddle's trying to make me look like a fool. All right, here we go. So here's Dion Dawkins circled here on that left side, the big yellow outline. Also, I was gonna let it go, but I feel like someone's gonna say it. Not a false start. He just times the snap ridiculously. If you wanted to call a false start, I wouldn't be super upset at you, but really quick out of the gate. Watch Ingram get into him. So Ingram's trying to hit him with a whole bunch of stuff. At this point in his career, Melvin Ingram isn't the most athletic type of dude, and you can see it in Ingram's movement. He's trying to hit him with the hezzy, break him down a little bit, trying to cross him. Doesn't really have too much from a juice and athleticism standpoint, but still get to the quarterback. So Ingram's trying to establish a half-man relationship. Dawkins is moving his feet well, establish his first touch, but this is where it gets really nice. Watch Ingram go for that long arm. You see it right here. Goes for that long arm, tries to put it into the chest of Dion Dawkins, and watch Dawkins just immediately snap it down. And this is just looks like he's giving him a really nice warm embrace. Takes all the leverage out of him. Very similar to a snatch trap. I didn't call it that in this one because it's not a full, clean chop down and bury into the ground, but he snatches that momentum. He snatches that leverage, and it happens in the blink of an eye. As soon as Ingram goes for it, Dawkins chops it down. Boom. Long arm, boom. Chops it right down. Boom. And look how much it knocks Ingram off kilter. And Ingram actually does a pretty decent job. He loses that leverage and is put into a bad situation. So he's like, okay, let me just try and go through Dion Dawkins. Dawkins just grabs him, bear hugs him, stalemates him, gets him off the ground. This is he just dead in the water if you're Melvin Ingram. Allen ends up making the play to James Cook. But again, just a very technically sound rep. His hand usage last year, he was hitting snatch traps and chopping wrists and chopping arms and just taking guys' leverage, taking guys' momentum with regularity last year. I think his hand usage isn't talked about enough from a tackle perspective, especially considering how big and athletic he is. Again, we talked about those run concepts, those tackle pulls where he's pulling, Spencer Brown is pulling. You see that athleticism on display, but I think the technical aspect of his game doesn't get talked about enough. Again, mirroring him here. He throws that left hand out, kind of feigns it a little bit, brings it back. He's just watching. Boom. Ingram gets close enough, gets first touch on him, slows him down a little bit. You see some nice arm length and reach there from Dawkins, and that's what causes Ingram to try and get a long arm himself. And again, as soon as he reaches, you reach, I teach, bang, chops that arm down. And also look to how that arm, how it just forces Ingram down, chops it right down because he's leaning too much on that arm. Boom. takes him right off his feet, embraces him, gives him a nice warm embrace, like a long lost friend that he hasn't seen in a long time, hugs him. Ingram tries to turn out of it. That's even a nice piece too, right? Like, so he tries to go through Dawkins. Dawkins just anchors. It's like, nah, brah, not happening. Ingram tries to spin out of it. And Dion just, nope, grabs him. Completely stalemated. Very nice rep from Mr. Dion Dawkins. Play it one more time while I queue up the next play. Great rep from Dion. Another rep from this game, also against Mr. Melvin Ingram. Again, these aren't plays that only happen against Miami or only happen against Ingram. I pick plays that he shows, again, moves that he shows with regularity, that he executes with regularity. Another one here. Here's Mr. Ingram this time. More of a wider alignment. Odd front look from the Dolphins. Basically kind of like a bear front look almost. Head up on the center, and 0, and then heads up, well, almost head up on the guards, but more like 3 T's. Yeah. Sorry, I was lost in my thought there. Think about something else. Okay, so here we go. Dion Dawkins. This one, a little different. More of an aggressive set this time from Dion. So we get the snap. Watch him close the space on Ingram. He attacks. He takes the fight to Ingram. So this is still a 45-degree set, but it's an aggressive 45 degrees. Not necessarily a jump set where he's, out of the gate, here's the snap, and he's going to get Ingram. But it is more of an aggressive set, I would say, than kind of waiting for Ingram to come to him like it was on the previous set. So cuts off the space a little bit, then still lets Ingram come to him a bit. Ingram goes for a similar move. This time, instead of all the multiple hesitations, he just goes for a jab with the left and is trying to come back outside. Almost look like he's trying to set up a cross chop for a minute, but doesn't hit it. Dawkins gets first touch again, gets a punch right into the face of Melvin Ingram. Ingram again goes for that long arm, starts leaning, and last time it was more technical. It was that chop, got him off balance, let me stalemate him, and then win it that way. This time, you see the pull down, very similar to what happened before, but this time Dawkins finishes him and buries him. And that was pass interference. Also, just in case anybody's going to say it, Dalton Kincaid is right here. Yes, Josh Allen misses Dalton Kincaid. Also, I'm just going to say it too, because people said it before. If Allen throws it here, there's no chance. There's less of a chance of pass interference. So Allen missed Kincaid, and he threw it a bit late to Dawson Knox. I just wanted to say that because I think that's an elephant in the room, because I put this play out on Twitter like 2 weeks ago, and people were like, oh, you missed Kincaid, you missed Kincaid, you missed Kincaid. So we're not talking about that, but I want to put out there just to be safe. Just another dominant rep from Dawkins. Boom. This time you don't get as much of a chop on that arm as you do kind of like a pull down. Sometimes this is called holding, so that can get a little murky, but it's not really a grab as much as it is like putting that paw on the shoulder and then pulling down or kind of pushing down. If anything, you kind of call hands to the face, which can get a little murky. But again, another example of as soon as Dawkins feels that long arm, as soon as he feels Ingram is leaning on him, he takes away that leverage. And again, look what it happens to Ingram. And then this is where you get that nice physicality. You get a little bit of an ability to finish, grabs him, and instead of just bear hugging him or anchoring and stalemating him again, takes him and finishes him to the ground. Nice rep again from Mr. Dion Dawkins. Boom, boom. That snatch trap has become really powerful for offensive linemen. I talk about it a bunch come college season. It's one of the things I really look for in evaluating tackles coming out of college, and really even some offensive linemen in general, just like that ability to feel that long arm, to feel that change in leverage and the potential for imbalance, and be able to chop that down, snatch that leverage, snatch that momentum, and then finish a dude. And Dawkins has become very proficient at it, as you can see on these back-to-back reps. Next one I want to go to, another one from Mr. Dion Dawkins. Let's go to the Patriots game. And bum 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 bum. All right. Other end zone angle for this one from Mr. Dion Dawkins, going up against Keion White, rookie for the New England Patriots. Again, more of an aggressive set, still a 45, but similar to the one we just saw against Melvin Ingram. Watch how he closes. Not a ton of space here between him and White. Decent amount of space between him and McGovern, but notice how he closes that space down initially on the snap. He takes that step to close that space and kind of take the fight to that edge defender. And then it's a little different than the one we just saw against Ingram, where he took a bit of more of that aggressive step, but still let Ingram come to him. This is Dawkins kind of, again, taking that fight to Keon White. And my thought here is it's a rookie, challenge him. This is still pretty early in the game. This is first quarter, 21 seconds left. It's probably like the third drive of the game, roughly, maybe fourth, because there was all those turnovers early. But you're kind of just establishing, hey, this is a rookie. Let me take the fight to him. Let me see what he's about, and kind of just playing games with him early, testing the cage a little bit in terms of seeing what he can bring and what he can do. So again, Mr. Dion Dawkins there at left tackle, but the right on your screen. A little bit of an aggressive set to close the space down on Keon White. What do we get? We get a reach from Keon White, and then you see that big paw from Dion Dawkins, right? His inside arm. White actually does a pretty good job. Look how he knocks back Dawkins. He gets that punch in there, but as soon as he goes to knock Dawkins back, what do we get again? We get that snatch. We get that bang. This time it's not a pull. It's not a hand on the pad and a grab and a paw down. He gets a double chop right onto that arm. Oof. Gets him barreling, and this is more of a pure snatch trap. Goes to the ground. We'll play it in real time for you. Again, it's as soon as he feels that leverage change, as soon as he feels that long arm, if he feels that that edge defender or that rusher in general is getting a little too far out in front of his feet, if there's too much pressure on those hands, if he feels too much on the chest and he sees the body angle, he sees the lean, he sees the leverage, it's just a simple chop down. And what's nice about what Dawkins does is he's got length, he's got strength, so that plays as well, but it's the location of those chops. Watch where, boom, it's right on the elbow is where he gets the outside hand, and then you can see it a little bit still. He gets it on the forearm as well. Like he's hitting at those joints. He's hitting at those spots where that's where you break contact. He's not hitting somebody in the bicep or too far up on the shoulder. He's hitting at the elbow. He's hitting at the forearm. He's hitting at those spots where you can break that connection, where you can break that established touch from that defender. And again, similar to what we saw before, chops it down. Defender kind of gets ass over tea kettle, and Dawkins just escorts him to the ground and buries him. Then you had a rail route opportunity up the sideline. Allen misses James Cook. Again, elephant in the room, just in case somebody wants to point that out. Bang. I could watch these all day. This is something, again, Dion Dawkins did with regularity last year. Bang. And again, see how instantaneous it is. He feels it. As soon as he feels that, again, you drill it and you teach it. But this is where that veteran experience comes in. This is where all those reps come in. When he feels that, he's attacking. And what's also nice, too, watch from... Again, I talked about the split between him and Connor McGovern pre-snap. Look at all this. You've got, effectively, Connor McGovern is on an island. Dion Dawkins is most definitely on an island, like way even more outside in space. And just, you can see his athleticism, his functionality, the feet, but it's the hands there and ability to kind of snatch and trap White back. Pretty good rep. Kind of a welcome to the league rookie type of moment for Mr. Dion Dawkins. Next person I want to talk about is Mr. Connor McGovern. I don't really like that song as much as I did the previous song, but that's life. Sometimes you make up good songs on the fly. Sometimes you don't. All right, let's cue up the next play for Mr. Connor McGovern. Well, the first play for Connor McGovern, but the next in our series. Like Dawkins, I have some advanced metrics from McGovern that I was surprised with how strong they were. I did some of this immediately after the season, but I guess I forgot about them from an advanced metric standpoint. So similar to Dawkins, 202 qualifying offensive linemen. Connor McGovern was tied for 24th in pass blocking efficiency amongst all 202 qualifying offensive linemen in 2023. He was tied for 10th amongst 82 guards. And then again, if we look at those true pass sets, he was tied for 59th out of those 202 qualifying offensive linemen and tied for 23rd out of 82 guards. Myself and Eric broke down some tape on him earlier today in the film room, talked about him a bunch this offseason in terms of what he brings and who he can be and what he can do. And I think what's nice about him, actually, if let me go ahead and play this. Yep. ironically. So one of the plays we went over today in the film room was this play that I'm about to show here. Connor McGovern isn't a people mover. He's not a mauler. He's not too physically imposing. He's more of a shepherd. He's more of an escort. He wins with leverage. He wins with positioning. He wins with arm length. He wins with hand placement. He knows how to get his body in between the ball and a defender. It's not always the most physical or the nastiest. He's not pancaking dudes and burying dudes left and right. But again, he understands leverage. He understands positioning. He is more of a shepherd than he is a people mover. And I think that lends itself to a potential move to center because you can get away with that at center more than you can with guard. Not that you need to be a mauler or a people mover at guard. Again, is exemplified by, he was 10th in pass blocking efficiency last year out of 82 qualifying guards and just what he was able to do from a pass perspective. But it does limit you a little bit, right? If you have somebody who's more of a mauler, more of a people mover, in addition to having that athleticism, which McGovern does have, just not as much as Mitch Morse at center. If you do have some of that people moving ability, some of that nastiness, some of that road grader, again, chuck dudes out of the club, people moving type of ability at guard, it just changes things for you a little bit from a run perspective. So McGovern wasn't bad, but again, more of a shepherd, more of an escort, more of a leverage and positioning type of blocker than he is a people mover. And this play is a good example of it. So odd front look here from the Chargers here. This is very, again, similar. Bare front, head up on the center. Outside shoulder of each guard, but I'm calling it bare just because of the presence, because you basically have each guard almost covered up. And watch, we're going to get the feed block here from Mitch Morse. So Mitch Morse is going to push 95, and that is going to kind of push him this way a little bit so McGovern can get this way and reach and seal his man. But watch what McGovern does. Again, here's McGovern right here. So he gets that feed and just watch him bring his hips through and his feet through. Look at his hand placement, all into the chest of 95. Again, 95 is a bit off balance because he got hit with that feed block from Mitch Morse. But look at the hand positioning. Look at the feet. Just turns. He's not mauling his man. He's not chucking him. He's not pancaking him. Gets a good feed block. Gets his hands positioned inside. Turns his body. Gets his butt and his backside into the hole. I say it all the time. Like, that's what you want to see. If you are a running back, you want to see the backside of your offensive lineman. That means the alley is clear. That means the hole is sealed. That is what you want to see. That is a running back friendly block. And it's not, man, do you see Connor McGovern just absolutely chuck 95? He buries him. What a physically imposing rep. No, it's good hand position and good athleticism. Brings his feet, brings his hips, turns, rotates, seals. This is what Connor McGovern is as a blocker. This works fine at guard, obviously, based on what he was able to do last year, but this plays better at center because you can get away with more finesse stuff if you're at that spot. But this is nice. Again, that hand positioning, just complete control on 95. Complete control. In that around where the shoulder pads are kind of covering your chest and your pecs. That's where you want to get those hands. That's where you want to get that pop right in the center of that frame. You want to control. You want to clamp those hands in there. Or if you get them on the inside, you can turn and torque. You don't want to get the hands too far outside the frame. You don't want to get them outside of the shoulder pads. Your hands, if you're an offensive lineman, they control everything, right? So the hands are for control. Your legs and your lower body, that's what you use to drive. And you get that positioning and some pop from Connor McGovern. As you can see, 95 kind of gets popped back a little bit there. But once he has this positioning with his hands, he's in firm control. And then again, just to slow mode a little bit more, this hand initially is even a little bit outside the frame, but he's able to refit it, get it inside. Actually, no, he's still on the outside. He's still controlling that elbow with that outside hand, but he's got that right hand clamped on the inside there, right kind of underneath and almost in the armpit a little bit there, controlling, turning, but it's the feet and the hips. Just brings them right through. Nice, good footwork, nice and clean. Almost trips Cook there a little bit, but nice and clean feet. Boom. Again, play one more time in real time. Good feed block from Morse. Boop. Again, not the most physical, not the most violent, just a nice, calm, and controlled rep from Mr. Connor McGovern. Now, Gonna go to the first game against the Miami Dolphins in the regular season last year to go to this next Connor McGovern clip. All right, boom. Here's a clip against Connor McGovern. Again, I think we talked about this one in the film earlier. That's funny. Again, nothing. This is against Zach Sealer. Very good offensive line, very good defensive lineman in the NFL, but especially for the Miami Dolphins. Has been kind of the Robin to Christian Wilkins as Batman for these past several years in Miami. We'll see what he can be now that Wilkins is in Vegas with the Raiders. But again, another rep that represents what Connor McGovern is. So on the snap, so McGovern has good arm length, wins first touch, boom. Hand right on the shoulder pad of Mr. Sealer here. Gets the hand on the shoulder pad. Oh, actually, no, we didn't show this play in the film. I feel better. Gets that hand on the shoulder pad. This one is about the feet and the hands for me. So the hand position is good placement, but just watch the feet. Maintains control with the hands, and he's in front of him the whole time. Forget what happens at the end. You can't control for that. Allen scrambles, tries to make a play. Also, I want to play through because this is an awesome move from Hardy. Whoop, first down. I think this was like 3rd and 6, and he gets like 7 yards. But watch him he establishes contact. McGovern right here. Whoop, whoop. Establishes contact. He gets that first touch with the left hand, then gets the right hand on him. So his hand placement is there. And then just watch from here. Watch the feet. Just stay in the center of your man. Stay in the center of your man. Stay in the center of your man. Stay in between the ball and the defender. That's it. It doesn't always have to be the prettiest. It doesn't always have to be the cleanest. It doesn't have to always be the best. That's a really good rep from Connor McGovern. Against a very good defensive lineman. And actually, you can see a little bit here. Dion Dawkins here on the left side gets run a little bit from Mr. Andrew Van Ginkel. Ginkel, different lean than what we were showing earlier, right? With Ingram and White against Dawkins, where he was able to snatch down on those arms. Ginkel here is able to get into the chest. Dawkins tries to refit his hands. Van Ginkel does a really good job working right through, prying him open and getting through that inside hip. Or inside shoulder, I should say. So good rep from Van Ginkel, but just a really good rep from Connor McGovern. Want to look at it from the other end zone angle. So again, here's McGovern versus Sealer. Actually, I'm going to circle it so that way, bloop, I can just stay there. Just staying in front of his man. Staying in front of his man. Also look to where this happens. So takes a bit of again, he wins first touch, so he reaches with that left arm, but a bit of an aggressive set. Like, look where the rest of the defenders are. Kind of here. I mean, Van Ginkel is way farther upfield, but the rest of the line is kind of established at the 25-yard line here, and Sealer is kind of like 2 yards ahead of it because McGovern is just kind of keeping him there in place. Wins that first touch, hands in the chest. Again, I want to show this angle too because we showed from the other side, right? He gets that first touch with that left hand. But watch McGovern's inside arm right here. Watch where that hand goes. Boom. Clamps it. Right inside. He's got control. He's into the chest. He's into the frame. He's right there. Now, you're not going to get called for holding here. You could grab as much jersey as you want. As long as you are moving your feet, you are trying to mirror that defender, you're not going to get called for holding. You really have to kind of stumble all over yourself, mess up your footwork, or someone's got to put a great move on you to really show that they're trying to separate and you're grabbing a handful of jersey there. As long as you move your feet, even if you've got jersey on inside there, they're not going to call that. So it's good hand placement. He's probably got some shoulder pad and some jersey right there. And then again, just moves his feet, moves his feet, moves his feet. Even look at there at the end too, right? Sealer goes back inside. Watch the left arm of Connor McGovern swoop back in to get in on that shoulder pad. Just doing anything and everything you can. Stay between the man and the ball. Stay between the man and the ball. Sometimes, again, it's not the sexiest. It's not the prettiest. Just stay between the man and the ball. I'll play this one more time in real time, and then we'll queue up the last one. All right. Now, a little physicality on this one from Mr. Connor McGovern. That's not what I wanted. There it is. All right. There's McGovern again, highlighted left tackle. Just a quick bury, quick win. Bang. Feels leverage. Pushes his man into the dirt. That's as much as you're going to get from like a physicality, people moving standpoint from Connor McGovern. But again, it happens because of leverage and it happens because of positioning. He feels how low that man is coming out of the snap, so he just pushes him down. Doesn't completely bury him. As you can see, 98 kind of gets right back up right away. Feel it, push down. That's it. Leverage, feel, positioning. Hands, leverage, feel, positioning. That is how Connor McGovern wins. That's what these plays are showing. Again, this is probably the most physical dominant rep, obviously, of the ones that we've shown here for him, but maybe of all here for him because he's not a mauler. He's not a road grader. He's not a people mover, but he feels with leverage. He understands positioning. He understands leverage. Boom, put your man down. He's too low. Cool, let him stay there. Push him down. Don't let him get underneath you. Don't give him the opportunity to drive back. Push through on that shoulder. Put him into the turf. Again, doesn't completely finish him. Doesn't pancake him completely. You see 98 kind of is able to get a knee down and then props himself back up. But it's that feel right away, right? And again, because that's how McGovern wins. Leverage, positioning. Leverage, positioning, feel, hand placement, all that stuff. But this is just feels the leverage. He feels the positioning. Boop, put him down. And a nice game for the Bills. They ran all over Dallas in that game. All right, now we're going to look at some stuff for Mr. David Edwards. Let's see. I need play 12 versus the Chargers. All right. So Edwards is not tough, but interesting to find film for him because, again, Bills' offensive line stayed healthy last year. So when he's in there, he's in those 6 offensive lineman sets. And the Bills really use that to their advantage throughout the entirety of the year. You're going to get a zone run here on this one. Bills ran this a million times in this game, literally with like the exact same motion. Here comes Sherfield in motion. It's literally the exact same thing. There's a bunch look over here, except it looks a little weird because you have a 6 offensive lineman with David Edwards. Sherfield comes in motion. He comes straight, not rounded like the line that I just drew. He goes in motion. It ends up being a mid-zone run, and you get gains from Cook, right? They ran this over and over against the Chargers. And it's ironic that it came the week after the Cowboys game where they ran all that tackle pull stuff. Now you get into this game, they find another concept that works out of a very specific look. Again, like bunches and then running that zone away from the bunch and bringing Sherfield in motion every single time. Yeah, I literally think that they ran this exact play out of this exact look, just flipping it. Right? Sometimes the bunch is over here on the left right now. Sometimes the bunch is over here on the right. They send Sherfield in motion this way. Literally just running this play over and over again against the Chargers, and it worked. But let's highlight Mr. David Edwards. This one's subtle, but it's a quick, nice establishment. So again, on that zone run, you want to get inside positioning. He wants to cut off this alley here. Whatever you can do to make this guy go this way is a win. It doesn't have to be completely clean. You don't have to bury him. You don't have to give him a back body drop. You don't have to suplex him. Doesn't matter. Just get him to go outside. Edwards has good movement on the snap. Boom. Cuts off that spot. And watch the hand usage here. Boom. He chops down on that inside. So Tui Pelotu is like, okay, I don't want that. Let me go outside. And Edwards is like, okay. Watch as he does this. And Edwards just turns, hinges, and is like, okay, cool. Now you want to come back here? You can't. You just opened up that whole side. And that's the side that Cook escapes through and gets a real nice gain. This is 2nd and 5. He gains 10 yards. And that's because that backside, again, this is well blocked as a whole. Watch the action you got going on here from Torrence and Spencer Brown. Boom. You get a nice little feed block from Brown. He helps Chuck 95. Torrence seals him off. Spencer Brown climbs to the 2nd level. Gets Kendricks here. He seals him. Cook puts a nice cut in the ground. You got really good work from Gabe Davis downfield on Derwin James. But that backside is open and cut off and available because of David Edwards. And again, it's just get inside. He does this a bunch. Sometimes he makes contact with a defender, and it's not just, oh, cool, let me chop and kind of take away that space and make you go somewhere else. Sometimes he'll get a piece of that arm or that wrist, and he'll get that defender to stumble a little bit, to fall down, to go down a little bit. Oh, Mike coming in with a hot take saying, hot take, Cedric Van Pran Granger is our starting left guard by end of season. That would be interesting considering, what am I looking at? Yeah, he is in the 5th percentile for arm length, 31 3/8 inches arms, 55th percentile for wingspan, 28th percentile for hand size. So he's short in terms of arm length. He's also only 298 pounds. He would be very undersized at guard. So if he was starting left guard by the end of the year, it makes me a little worried because I feel like that would happen due to injury more so than skill. But who knows? Skill and technique can mitigate deficiencies in size and frame. So it's possible that it could happen. I think that's a long shot. But again, I think that's why it's a hot take. And I respect your take. Again, one last time for, oh, don't you do loading to me. Oh, huddle. Make me look like a fool, huddle. Again, subtle, but this is what Cromer teaches. Aaron Cromer is all about hand technique. We talk about it all the time in the film room. We make that joke, hands, hands, hands. That's from an Aaron Cromer coaching clinic that we broke down in the film room a couple years ago when he was hired. It's all about that hand usage, but take off, zone run, cut off that inside. Whatever you got to do to make this guy go this way, you're in business. The only thing you don't want him to get inside. You don't want him to get into this gap and either make the play or force the running back to go this way. Instead, Edwards cuts off that inside, creates a nice cutback for Cook, and Cook hits it. Beautiful game. And again, you got a lot of people doing their job on that play, but that part from Edwards goes a significantly long way. Now let's go to the playoff game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Got another play from Mr. Edwards here. That's not what I wanted. This is what I wanted. I also put an arrow on Spencer Brown because I wanted to highlight what Spencer Brown did on this play because I liked it. And so, Johnny comes in and says about Cedric Van Pran Granger, no way he's a guard. And then he said T-Rex. You never know. Could overcome those short arms, but yeah, he does have, again, fifth. Let me look at where he is on mock draft. Well, yeah, fifth percentile for arm length. Very, very, very short. I do like him, though. I'm interested to see what his long-term trajectory is. If he's starting at center next year, McGovern's back at left guard. Could be very interesting to see. I don't have any advanced metrics for David Edwards, also because he doesn't have enough of sample size. Again, wasn't a starter last year. Was only coming in as that sixth offensive lineman in those sets. And so I didn't want to give his numbers from how low of a sample size it was. So I don't have metrics for him. I mean, I could pull metrics for him like I did for everyone else, but I just didn't think it didn't have the proper sample size. So I didn't want to use it. Here's Edwards circled. I put an arrow above Spencer Brown just because I like what Spencer Brown does on this play as well. But we're going to talk about Edwards here. This is against Cam Hayward, veteran, a bit older, still a tremendous player on the defensive line in the NFL. What do we get again? Another zone run. We get that step inside. And this, similar to what we saw on the previous play against the Chargers. But what happened last time was, in order to avoid this chop, Tuipulotu just tried to go this way and kind of circumvent David Edwards. This time, Hayward is too close. He's in close proximity, and Edwards actually gets a chop down on that inside arm. Boom. And then takes him right out of the play. So again, all he wants to do is cut off that inside, chop down. And Hayward actually tries to reach back, if you notice, right? So he chops down that arm. Hayward sees what's going on. Hayward tries to cross face. He tries to move here. You can see him trying to get into this gap. And Edward shuts it down. Hayward loses his footing a little bit. We get, again, what do we get? Similar to what we got in that play against the Chargers. We got a nice cutback lane. Again, similar to what we saw. This is pretty much the different look out of it. But you just have a mid-zone run. Weak side mid-zone run. Strength is over here with technically like 3 tight ends, even though Edwards is an extra offensive lineman. But you got the big heavies over here, Kincaid, Knox, Edwards. Run a little weak side mid-zone run here. Ty Johnson feels the cutback. And again, that cutback happens because Edwards clears that backside. Again, subtle hand technique. Good movement off the snap. Good quickness out of the blocks. He's not too slow. He's not too heavy-footed. He's able to get across the face of Hayward. And what you could do here, this isn't the only way to execute here. You could try and cut this man off and turn and seal and kind of do whatever you want. But he chops that hand because he knows that dude's going to be trying to haul ass to get across his face because he's responsible for that gap. You just base it off. And again, kind of just seeing where we are here. He's responsible for here. He's responsible for here. So Edwards knows Hayward is going to try and cross his face. So he gets out of his stance nice and fast. And then he knows Hayward's going to reach for that touch. So he kind of cuts him off at the knees. Not literally more figuratively. Boom. Chops that arm down. Hayward loses balance, leverage. He's kind of out of position. And again, credit to Hayward. He still kind of almost recovers here. Edwards puts him down / loses his footing. And again, honorable mention to Spencer Brown right here, highlighted by the arrow. I just like how physical this rep is. Just take your man right out of the play. Wash that side down. And then this is the beautiful, potential of his own run. There's no hole it's going to in particular. It's just kind of, choose your own adventure. If you're the running back, be like water, flow wherever the opening is. So this run happens because of that backside work. Spencer Brown crushes 99, pushes him down, washes him down. And then Edwards gets that piece of Hayward. One last time to show. So again, what you get is, there's the alley. And Hayward threatens it a little bit briefly by trying to get across Edwards' face, but Edwards maintains his grip. Hayward loses his feet. And there's your cutback. Boom. Again, if you're a running back, what do you want to see? You want to see your lineman's backside, all backside right here, cut off it. And then Johnson does a good job of getting north and south and getting upfield once he cuts off of it. So again, similar to the technique, and that's a Cromer type coached play. That's a Cromer type execution. That's why I think David Edwards is going to succeed in this offense, just because that Cromer way of life is so ingrained in him from the years that he spent with Mr. Aaron Cromer. So I do think that bodes well towards his opportunity to start. Again, we never know. Things could happen. Now we're going to go this play against the Chiefs. Again, another set. What do we got for some comments coming through? Ralph says, imagine how good this O-line would look if Cook could shake a tackle at the second level once in a while. Yeah, man, if he could, it's what he is, right? I mean, at his size and frame, that's why he has the speed and the ability to kind of shift in and out like a slalom skier in between holes and make guys miss. He's not the biggest yards after contact type dude. I do think he played more physical last year than he did his rookie year, so I think there was some improvement there. If he made a similar jump in year 3, I think that would be tremendous. But yeah, that's just the give and take with what he is. He's, not the biggest tackle breaker. You want him to get out in space. He can make a dude miss in close quarters, but again, it's more got to be a miss or set a dude up so he can run through an arm tackle as opposed to just tackle breaker type shedder. But yeah, numbers could go a little bit. Mike says over under Bills total rushing offense at 2,200 yards. The Ravens led the league at 2661 last year. Ooh, oh boy. I think that's pretty solid because I feel like you could get 1,100 from Cook, 500 from Allen. That's already 16. And then you get 300 from Ty Johnson, and I'm just making up numbers. 300 from Ty Johnson and like 300 from Ray Davis. You're at 22 right there. I think that's somewhere safe. I think the 22, 21, 2,000 range is interesting. The Ravens are just such a juggernaut because of all the running backs they have, plus Lamar. Like Allen's legs are what factored into it as well, especially if we're talking about scrambles versus design runs. I think it's pretty good over-under for the Bills total rushing offense. I like that. Let's bookmark that and then play that back at the end of the year. I like that. Well done. Well done, Mike. All right, this one here from Mr. David Edwards. Duo run from the Bills. Edwards climbing to the second level. Boom. Gets a piece of Bolton. Seals him. Takes him. Drives him. Wanted to show it in slow motion first and then show it in real time just to kind of give you an idea of Edwards' athleticism and how he moves to the second level. Again, there he is. 6 offensive linemen. Just watch how quick. Whoop. Good feet. Good movement. Crashes down. Gets to the second level. Bolton actually makes first contact. Who knows if his hand isn't in a cast. Maybe makes a better play on this. But Edwards just kind of engulfs him. Takes him, seals him, drives him. Also want to pull it from this angle. I could time it right. There's Edwards right there. So again, here we go. Reads it. Spencer Brown again, washing his man inside. Well done, Spencer. Shakir. Good block on Mr. Trent McDuffie. And Edwards, you can, again, what do we want to see? Backsides. There's David Edwards. He's getting wrenched back a little bit, but we want to see backsides. If we are running back in the hole, reverse angle again, boom, backside. And that's where you're cutting off of. So not the most fleet of foot, but not cement feet. Good movement. You actually see as he climbs, good gather step, nice and controlled, efficient movement. Again, not the most fluid. Nobody's going to mistake him for Penei Sewell, but this is good, efficient movement. Climb to the second level, seal, and again, just escort your man. Don't try to do too much. Nick Bolton jumps inside, so Edwards is like, okay, I'm just going to position my body in between you and my running back. That's it. Smart veteran play. Good job from Mr. David Edwards. Now, let's look at some stuff for O'Cyrus Torrence, who his numbers were worse than I thought they would be. Granted, I actually think, if I remember, I think this was a bit of a contention point for people during the season with how people were charting pressures for O'Cyrus Torrence. I thought O'Cyrus Torrence had a good rookie year last year. I like the shape that he came into camp with. Leaner, trimmed down, especially, seeing him in person at the Senior Bowl in 2023. He was physically imposing then. He's still physically imposing now, but he trimmed down. Like, you can tell that he cut weight without necessarily sacrificing a ton of mass or strength, but you could tell that he trimmed down and slimmed down a little bit, which I thought made complete sense. Just with the movement that he's going to have to regularly show and have at the NFL, operating at that size that he was at Florida, I just didn't think was sustainable in the NFL. So it was nice to see the shape that he showed up to in camp. Kind of got tested early in terms of being put with the starters, ran with the ones, and never gave up that spot. I think as the season went along, you started to see some struggles for him a bit at times. Again, just with his size and play style, he's more of a heavy-footed type of dude. Yes, RJ says right now, for some reason, PFF has a pure hatred towards Cybo. Like, just to give an example of that real quick, his most pressured game, or the game where he gave up the most pressures, let me look it up. Where are you here? Yeah, the game where he gave up the most pressures, or was charted with the most pressures, was the Miami game in Week 18. He was credited with 6 pressures and gave up 5 hurries. I went back and watched that because I just didn't remember him getting worked like that, and I still don't think he got worked like that. But again, everybody can chart differently, and what you attribute a pressure to can vary, again, by people. There's just still humans charting it, so you get human error at times. But I thought he had a good rookie season. Again, I thought it was good right from the jump. He showed up to camp in good shape, got tested early, worked well with Spencer Brown. I think the two had a good chemistry. I do think both of them got gamed up a little bit by two-man games as the season went on. And I do think, just again, with the nature of how Torrence is built and his play style, I do think RJ says, I remember the film room breakdown of that game, and Torrence looked good. Yeah, I still don't think he looked bad. Like, to each their own, I guess. Just with how Torrence is built, I do think you're always going to have to worry about kind of lateral agility and dudes that are quick on the interior, guys that, and then if you have the unicorns who are big and fast and quick, yada, yada, like, they can present some problems. But I do think it's always he's going to have to worry about guys, creating a soft shoulder against him, guys that can kind of create an angle and take advantage, because he has to overcompensate versus speed at times. Once he gets his paws on you, as we're going to take a look here, it's very hard to get away from him. He's got huge hands. They're extremely strong. So once he gets those vice grip hands on you, it's kind of over. Big, strong, physical. Moved better last year than I thought he would have coming out of Florida. But again, I think a lot of that is tied to, him trimming down a little bit and cutting down a little bit. But the physicality was there. I think the awareness was there. Overall, I think he had a solid rookie year. I'm excited to see what he can be in year 2. And again, especially just looking at the offensive line right now, right? Like, we don't know. Who knows? Maybe Spencer Brown gets re-signed and comes back to Buffalo. Maybe he improves again this year and he prices himself out of Buffalo. So we don't know what's going to happen at right tackle. We still don't necessarily know what's going to happen at center. David Edwards, I don't know if he's the long-term answer at left guard. So it would be nice if, given Torrance's contract, if he could take another jump in his game this year in year 2, and we know, okay, that right guard spot is locked down for another 2 years after this year because Torrence is on that rookie deal, and then we kind of go from there. But overall, I think he had a solid rookie year, but the numbers were not kind. Again, out of 202 qualifying offensive linemen, he was tied for 119th in pass blocking efficiency, and he was tied for 53rd amongst 82 guards. If you go to true pass sets, he was tied for 115th out of 202 qualifying offensive linemen and tied for 49th out of 82 guards. So he got better from a rankings perspective. Score went down, but he got better from a rankings perspective. But yeah, I don't think he was as bad as the numbers indicated. I also remember that too. I think like down the stretch, like people kind of talking about how bad of a year that he was having. And I think it was people who were just looking at PFF metrics and not watching film, or not knowing how, or watching film and not knowing how to watch it. I always like be careful when I say things like that, because I don't want to sound like a gatekeeper or act like I know everything, or act like I know how to see everything. There's plenty I don't know. But I just, it just seeing and I'm a big PFF advanced metrics guy, not the grades. I love their advanced metrics and the data. I didn't think things kind of matched up with him. So it's very interesting. And I don't know enough about how they chart to kind of understand why it is the way they do it. I'm just going to chalk things up to, I'm a human. The person who charted him is a human. Maybe we see things differently. All right, cool. So first one here, this isn't all him. This is just a nice double team move between him and Spencer Brown. So you can see on the snap, he's got that inside hand extended out in case Carter presses that gap, giving some support to his buddy Mitch Morse here at center. But you notice he's eyeing Morrow and then keeping things open to give some help to Spencer Brown. And this is just a nice tag team move right here. Boom. Physical. Reddick pops inside. Brown chucks him right into Torrence. It's nice. Boom. Got to figure out a name for this finisher. RJ, if you're still in here, you're a wrestling guy. We need to figure out a name for this finisher. It's very similar to kind of like almost like setting him for like a pop-up power bomb, or like a pop-up like spine buster or spear. Like Brown is pushing Reddick, boom, into like a pounce type action. We got to figure out something, RJ. Okay, real-time action. So now I want to go into slow-mo. Reddick's on the outside. So Torrence can feel Carter here, right? He feels Carter on the inside, knows that Morse has him. So his eyes go to the outside for his support. He watches Reddick. He sees Reddick plant and go inside. Brown knows he's got Torrence inside, so he chucks Reddick. And again, this is just good awareness. Head on a swivel, find some work. You've given support to Mitch Morse against Jalen Carter. Boom. Now, again, this just happens to look really pretty. Oh, nice. All right, I just said I was going to call it a pounce. I like that. Well done. Oh, Bill Ben says a torrential flattening. I like that. Okay. We got some good names here. I like that. Yeah, it is pounce reminiscent. I'm glad you see it that way. That's funny. So again, just good awareness, head on a swivel. It looks prettier than it is because Reddick starts to lose his footing here as he gets thrown by Brown. As he tries to complete that spin, he gets chucked. So if he's on his feet, actually, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe he still gets pounced. But it's the awareness. The finish is nice. The physicality is nice, but it's the awareness. How he has that hand on Carter, sees that everything is okay, so he pops back out to help on the interior. Well, not help on the interior, help through that B gap with Spencer Brown. Boom. And then we just get the added bonus of that physicality. Again, just the way he plays it. Get that hand out there. So in case if he feels pressure, he can go there. He can help out, but he's really just trying to stab and keep him at bay. And then as he does, he looks back, sees Reddick threatening that B gap, buries his man. Also, shout out to Dalton Kincaid for this move on Zach Cunningham. Whoop. Pretty stuff. Next rep for Mr. Osiris Torrence. All right. Oh, I'm looking at more names coming through. Bill Ben says tsunami style. Um, oh, RJ says we're even better than Gore, but that may work only if it is Frank Gore Jr. That's fair. I hear Gore and I think Rhino from ECW. Man, I loved Rhino in ECW. Well, I hated him at the time, but that was good. Oh, this is good. Brown and Ground by Johnny. That's clever. I like that. It's a good chat. All right, let's watch. Feel free to put more thoughts into the chat. I'll come back and grab them as I finish going through film here. This one, not the craziest, but I wanted to showcase what Torrence is able to do from a movement perspective in climbing to the second level. This was an issue that I had with his game at Florida. He actually climbed fine to the second level, especially considering his size, but he would get to the second level and not necessarily latch on to guys, or he'd make contact and they'd fall off, and then guys would make plays at the second level on him. But I was concerned about his movement ability to get to the second level in the NFL. Dudes are bigger, stronger, faster than they are in college. He labored a bit in college. I thought he would labor more in the NFL, but again, he trimmed down, cut weight, moved more efficiently. So this play, I just wanted to highlight his movement. Again, you can see the difference in terms of how he moves versus Edwards or McGovern, or I don't want to even compare him to Morse or Brown because they're very, very, very athletic, but you can see it almost like you can feel like the plodding steps more of Torrence. I don't want to call him cement feet because that implies that he has no mobility, but you can tell that he's heavy footed, which allows him to anchor and have that base and that strong power base because he does have heavy feet and heavy hands. Again, so I'm playing it in real time just so you can get a sense of the movement. But what's nice about it, now let's go from a technique standpoint, a structure standpoint. So he's given this feed block. He's hitting this man, trying to help Mitch Morse, basically trying to get him to stay like here or get pushed this way. So as Morse, didn't delete that. So as Morse steps through, he can kind of hook him, or he can kind of cross face here and make a play and get something onto him, right? So Torrence hits that feed block, and you can see gets both hands right onto the shoulder, does a good job and kind of stalling him a little bit, doesn't allow Mitch Morse to cross face, but he stalls him enough that Mitch Morse gets on that inside shoulder, and then Morse is able to push his man outside, and Cook is able to cut back. Then after we get that feed block from Torrence, climb to the second level, and again, you don't have to do too much. You don't have to bury your guy at the second level. And that was my thing with him at Florida, right? Like you didn't need to clobber the dude. You didn't need to gore him or just pounce him or anything. Get your hands on him, shepherd, leverage, more positional stuff, right? Show a little more Connor McGovern at the second level with positioning and leverage. And I think he does this here. Gets his hands on the man and immediately turns. He knows where this run is going. Look, immediately brings his hips. As he's making contact with Morrow, boom, there's the hands. He's already starting to swing those hips through. And then he seals. So good job, again, from Osiris Torrence. Let it play in real time. As I go to the next play. Boom, boom, boom. All right, this next play, again, all from these Philly games. I just thought he had a good game against Philly. And I said it last week when I was showing Epinesa stuff. I know Philly kind of fell apart towards the end of the year, but they still had really good individual players, especially on that defensive line. I'm excited to see what Jalen Carter is in year 2 for the Eagles. A lot of these reps coming against Jalen Carter, which is a good kind of rookie versus rookie. Iron sharpens iron sharpens iron type of scenario. But here we are again, Torrence versus 98, Jalen Carter. This one's similar to the McGovern rep against Sealer. Just look at the movement. Kind of like two dancing bears. I tweeted this one out earlier today, I believe, and said that exact same thing. I want to show both angles from it. I'm going to show this one in real time, and then we're going to go in slow-mo from the end zone angle. Latches on. Again, those vice grip hands. You can see how little, when you're watching in real time, like Jalen Carter's a big man. Look how little movement there is for him because Torrence has those hands inside. Torrence has those hands right in the center of that frame, and he's holding him, he's grabbing him. Once he gets those paws on you, you're not going anywhere. And then he's decent footwork to go along with it. But the big part I want to show, so from this angle, you can see, let's watch this inside arm right here, right? Okay. On the snap, gets it a little bit outside on the shoulder pad here, which isn't terrible, but you want to get it inside. And then as the play goes along, see how he changes? And it's more kind of like inside the pec or almost kind of like on the shoulder bone type there. So keep that in mind, right? That's where that hand is because you're not going to be able to see it from this angle. So this is the other end zone angle. Now watch this hand. This hand is really on the outside shoulder. So he's like here basically with each hand, which isn't awful, but you do want to get more in the chest. You want to get more into the frame. That gives you better control. That gives you better leverage ability and the ability to kind of mitigate your opponent in terms of their movement. But watch this hand here. So again, nice white on the green jersey. You can see that hand. So that hand is a bit outside. Carter, this is Carter's hand now. He's kind of going to go for a club and he's going to try and shake loose from Torrence, either hit him with that club and maybe swim or rip through or just shake, get loose somehow. As he does that, he takes this hand off. And Torrence immediately takes that hand and he clamps it down right on the inside. So this is a really nice refit. Now, look where that hand positioning is. Before, he was up here on the shoulder pad. Chance to draw a holding penalty if your hands get outside that frame. When your hands get up here, it's easier to see if you're grabbing jersey. It's easier to draw a holding call if you're a defender. And you also just have less control and leverage maintain potential if you are the offensive lineman. Now, so instead of being up here on that shoulder pad, look where that hand is. Right there. Right underneath that pec, kind of in that rib area, that clamp hand. And again, when you have huge paws for hands that are extremely strong, that's great leverage control. So he gets that hand right in there. He clamps that hand inside. Now, as Carter tries to come back this way, look at that. He's got him locked in. And watch, you can see Carter's movement. I want to tie it right from, let's go from here. Carter is initially coming upfield and watch him get driven out because of that strength and that power. So he feels himself getting driven out. So he's like, okay, let me slam on the brakes and see if I can win back inside. Nope. And just stalemated. Just a really beautiful rep against a very talented rusher in Osiris Torrence. 2 dancing bears. Boom. And his footwork isn't bad either. Again, especially for a dude who's more of a plotter. You can see it, though. Not the most fleet of foot, but it's that grip strength. Those hands. Boom. That refit is tremendous. Again, it's not great off rip. Again, like we talked about, right, when I showed the first angle, that left hand is kind of in here. So he's got his left hand on the shoulder bone or kind of the top part of the pack. Again, you'd like to get it more in the center of your chest or the defender's chest, but his left hand is around here, and that right hand is gripped right there, clamped inside. He's got that clamp hand. Jim McNally would be proud of this clip, I believe, because he would see that inside hand, that clamp hand inside. And this is what, again, so again, it's not horrible off the snap, but you don't love the hand placement. But as he feels Carter, so again, and getting this is where the strength comes in, because Carter goes to club him on that inside, and Torrence is like, no, like I've got my left hand, you're gripped, you're not going anywhere. So Carter feels that and tries to come back, but all he does, he takes that hand off for a brief second, and now Torrence is clamped in. Just a real nice refitting of the hands. Boom, right there. And then now Carter tries to come through. He's coming up field. Torrence pushes him out. So Carter tries to go back inside, and he's just stalemated completely. Absolutely beautiful rep. I'm going to play from both angles, kind of just in real time. Absolute beautiful rep. Great rep. One more time from this angle. 2 dancing bears. Oh, good rep. And again, you can see both his strengths. You can see his skill set kind of all in one thing, right? The grip strength and the hand strength is what allows him to win this. And he does a good job moving with Carter, but you can see he's not the most fleet of foot. Bit heavy-footed, but again, also heavy-handed, which allows him to make plays like this. Now, let's go to this one against Mr. Jalen Carter. Again, both end zone angles we got here. This one's nice to see him anchor against Jalen Carter. There was a rep when Georgia played Florida the previous year for these two. Well, their last years in college each. Carter had a rep where he literally ran through Torrence just like this. But instead of Torrence being able to anchor, Carter was just able to run through him and drive him like 10 yards into the backfield. Wanted to show this angle for the hand placement of that inside hand. If you can see this one, it's on the back. This play came after the previous plays that we just showed. So Torrence was able to get his hands inside, get that fit. This time, Carter is like, no, I'm not going to dance. I'm winning first touch, and I'm going right through you. You can see immediately he's into the chest of Torrence. Torrence's hands aren't in good positioning. His feet aren't in great placement. He doesn't have a good base. Carter is starting to go through him. Look at him dip, change leverage. Look at the bend here in the leg as he's able to bend and anchor. I'm going to show the other leg too, but that ability to anchor, and then this hand positioning isn't great. So he uses that right hand, that inside hand positioning, or outside hand, I should say, to stall and stalemate. Okay, let's watch it from this angle. You can see him kind of putting that hand out there, and that hand can be used like as to actually establish first touch, or it can be kind of like feign a little bit. Like you're putting that hand out there. You want that defensive lineman to shoot his hands in response to your hand, but you were really just kind of playing games with them, and you weren't really going to try and win that first touch or establish that contact. But you see the hand placement there from Torrence, and Carter, again, is just like, screw it. I'm not getting caught in this game again. I'm just going to try and get in your chest and go through you. What do we get again? So we showed that left hand, right, which was kind of on the outside of the shoulder pad in the back a little bit. Watch this hand as Carter starts to barrel into him. Almost like a circle punch, actually. Boom. And he gets it underneath. Now, you're still not in great shape, right? Carter is into your chest. You're not on skates, but you're being driven backwards. But because you've got that right hand inside, you've got that punch, you've got that clamp, you kind of hit that circle punch, and you've clamped in a little bit. Now, watch the sink. So he gets driven back. He's going to anchor. Look at him drive his feet into the ground. You see the duck feet, so he can kind of get that base and drive. And then this is where that hand comes into play. So he's got that hand. Oh, that's a horrible, horrible angle from me. He's got that hand right there on that inside. And he leans. It's not the prettiest, but he's able to anchor and stall him. Stalemate him, I should say. Again, we're just watching in real time here. You're not always going to win the rep off the snap, right? Sometimes you lose initially. How do you recover? This is a good recovery because his hands are not in good placement. His feet are not in good placement. Carter is going through him and driving him back. Torrence is able to anchor and shut it down. Boom. Again, that right hand is nice. Like he sees it and just loops it right underneath to be able to get into the chest. He gets it right on that 8 of Carter on the front of his jersey. And then you get some bend, you get some lean. That's where those heavy feet kind of work in, right? Because he's able to kind of put those heavy feet into the ground like cinder blocks and just shut it down. Take that momentum. No mas. Nice rep for Mr. Osiris Torrence. Now, let us talk about Spencer Brown. 43 versus Miami, week 18. Spencer Brown. All right, let's show some Spencer Brown. We showed one already. Now, let's show another. Oh, that's not the one I want. Is it the one I want? No, it's not the one I want. Yes, it is. That's the one I want. Hold on. It is the one I want. Okay, swell. I thought I stamped it. For some reason, my stamp didn't stick. All right, so hold on. Let me just mark this so we're all good. Okay, great. Hooray. See? I didn't start out great, but I adjusted like Osiris Torrence on their previous rep. Spencer Brown's an interesting one. Let me go back because I saw Johnny Mack said Spencer Brown gets a new contract before the season. For me, I don't know. I think I like the year 3 that he had last year. It was a big improvement versus first 2 years. Again, also it was nice that he wasn't banged up throughout the entirety of the year. I missed a bunch of training camp preseason like he was the years before. I like what Spencer Brown did. I still like him very, very, very much as a run defender. His athleticism, as a run blocker. His athleticism is tremendous. His physicality is tremendous. I'm still not completely sold on him as a pass protector. I'll see what he is in year 4. I'm not ready to commit to him right now. And my cause for concern with him staying in Buffalo is I don't want to pay, or not cause for concern, but I should say, like, why I don't think he's going to be a Bill past this year is I don't want to give him the contract right now because he's been too inconsistent for me. And I think if he has another year this year, like he did last year, or builds upon it, I think he could potentially price himself out because I do think that ceiling that he has is still there because of the athleticism and because of the inexperience. Now, he had a good year last year, especially in comparison to the years that he had before. But I think a lot of talk from people, or at least I see, and I hate using this, but like a lot of conversation I see from fans in real life or on Twitter is about how amazing of a season he had and how awesome of a season that he had. I think he had a good year. I think how good of a year he had is put against or juxtaposed with the expectations for him going into last year. And the expectations were, can he stop being a roller coaster? He wasn't a roller coaster. So that was nice. I think he played average to above average right tackle, which was nice. Sometimes below average, still getting beat too quick for my taste at times, shooting his hands with poor timing or poor placement, getting beat around the arc and just getting a little too far out in front of his feet. I do still think he has a lot to clean up from a pass pro standpoint, but he improved tremendously last year. I also think they helped him out a lot last year. I did a project for Cover One earlier this offseason, and I went and literally watched every single rep of pass pro for Spencer Brown last year. I watched every single one from week 1 all the way through the divisional round against the Chiefs. And the Bills gave him a lot of help. It wasn't just that week 2 game against the Raiders where they were giving him tons of chip help against Crosby. He was getting tight ends lined up next to him, running backs chipping and helping out of the backfield. He was getting help from Torrence at right guard to kind of protect that inside. So he had help, which isn't terrible, but he had help more than people realize. And I do still think he struggled more than people realize. But I was very happy with his progress last year. I still do think he's on an upward trajectory. My just cause for concern or worry is if he has another year this year like he did last year, and what I mean by that is it takes another jump in his game, I think he could price himself out. But you got to like the improvement you saw last year from Spencer Brown. Some metrics for him. Out of 202 qualifying offensive linemen, he was tied for 103rd in pass blocking efficiency. Out of 86 tackles, he was tied for 28th. In true pass sets, he was tied for 89th out of 202 qualifying offensive linemen and tied for 21st amongst 86 offensive tackles. So he saw a ranking jump in true pass sets amongst all qualifying offensive linemen and amongst just qualifying tackles. Again, not a horrible year. I don't think it is as good as potentially was advertised by some people, but a good year. And we'll dive into some film pieces with him now. Where are some comments? Appreciate this from Johnny saying, love this film work style stuff because I missed most of it during the game from telecast angles. That's what we're here for. I appreciate that. Mike says, I really feel like Cook found his vision as a running back last year. I think he found vision, tempo, and patience last year. And I kind of expect to see him improve again this year and have a really solid year. I think he's the second most, if we're talking from like a weapons standpoint, Josh Allen doesn't count. I think Kincaid is the most important dude. I think James Cook is number 2 because of what he can be in the run and the pass. And Mike saying it seems like he mentally understands how to get into space more often. Hopefully he develops more as a pass catcher. I would like that. Oh, Charles talking about some of those Torrence clips saying the helmets don't get more than 2 inches apart. That's fair. Johnny says I'm going to go over 2,200 yards based on a full season with Brady. What else do we got? Mike talking about Brown saying what scares me about Brown is inconsistencies and injuries. He was good though last year. Absolutely. The injuries aren't great. The inconsistencies aren't great. He was good in 2023. I don't think he was as good as some people make it out to be. I don't think he had this revelatory season. Again, everything is all expectation based, right? If you thought he was done, you're probably over the moon with the season that he had last year. If you just wanted to see him stop being a roller coaster, you're happy with the year that he had last year. And that was me, right? I just wanted him to stop being a roller coaster. I would love him to be a top 10 right tackle in the league. I just wanted him to stop being a roller coaster. Just give me average play down in and down out. I mentioned it earlier. Like the problem with Spencer Brown in years past And how much of it was due to injury, I don't know. But the problem with him in years past was a really great rep followed by a rep where he gets beaten like half a second. And again, a lot of it was from pass pro. He was good as a run blocker from the jump. The athleticism, the physicality, and the finishing have shown on tape for as a run blocker with regularity. Pass pro and the technique and the feel, again, punch timing, punch location, when to shoot your hands, when to not, feign stuff, when to play games and do different things. Sometimes that would get him into trouble a little bit. But overall, I thought he had a solid year last year. And Charles saying back injuries for a 6'8" tackle would concern me. I think that's part of it too, right? Like the type of injuries that he's had, given his size and his frame, like because he's not the most technically sound guy, if his athleticism starts to wane a little bit, you start to get a bit worried, because I think a lot of his success right now is due to that athleticism. It's due to his ability to move, to get out into space, to be physical and athletic and all this kind of stuff. If he's not able to do that, that worries me a little bit. But again, we'll see. Hopefully he can continue to improve. Joe comes in and says, very happy with Brown, even if it was just quote unquote good and not insanely high caliber. I wonder if there is still a slight leap for him with another year of Cromer looming. I do think there's still another leap in him. Again, I've said this so many times, I need to just play it on like a loop. Played 8-man football in high school, went to the University of Northern Iowa, opted out for the COVID year. So he doesn't have a ton of like 11-on-11 football under his belt, let alone against high caliber opponents. So he's very much learning how to play right tackle 11-on-11 in the NFL. And he's doing it against NFL level like talent. So there is a steep learning curve for him. And then you throw in the injuries and all the missed reps and the missed snaps and playing banged up. I do think he still has the opportunity to hit that ceiling, and he could become a very, very, very good player. And again, I do think he had a good season last year. I just don't think, and yeah, I would call it good. I do think he had a good season last year. But like I've seen some conversation too of like, if you had to give somebody a contract now, either Greg Rousseau or Spencer Brown, who are you giving it to? I'm giving it to Greg Rousseau every day of the week. It's not even close. Like I'm not even flinching. It's Greg Rousseau, and it's not close. But that's because he's proven to be elite as a run defender, and he's been okay as a pass rusher. But that his run defending is better than anything that Spencer Brown does, even though Spencer Brown is a very, very, very good run blocker. It's funny how both their games kind of in the pass a little bit, very, very good with regards to the run. But I do like the year he had. I do think you could see another jump for him this year with Cromer. And again, if he stays healthy, I think he could be a guy where you're sitting here 3 years from now, and he's potentially one of the best tackles in the league, as long as he stays healthy and everything clicks. Again, it's just because he's so green, and just, again, not a lot of experience, not a lot of experience in volume, let alone experience against like high caliber dudes. Okay. Joe says, I feel like if this is Brown's ceiling, then it wouldn't be an awfully daunting task to find a successor in the draft or free agency. And that's been my thing. Like, I feel like if you could draft a first round tackle and be all right and be fine, or draft a second round tackle and be all right and be fine, or maybe pay a little bit in free agency. Again, it's going to be tough to come close to that level of athleticism because he's a ridiculous athlete at his size and at his position. But yeah, I think that's pretty spot on. I like this comment from Mike saying Rousseau is a B+ player to me. I think Rousseau as a run defender is an A. Or an A+ almost, but it's hard to, A+ to me is like perfect. So I'm going to say he's an A against the run. As a pass rusher, yeah, I think he's kind of like a B- or a B. And so overall, yeah, I think he would be a B+. Depending on how heavy you weigh the pass rushing or the run defending, I think he's either an A- or a B+. But right now I'm in agreement with you. I think he's a B+ dude. I think he could jump to an A- or an A player this year if he takes another jump in his pass rush, if he takes another jump from a pass rush plan perspective, from a move set perspective. Again, a lot of it with Groot is health too, right? Like he's had injuries he's just been able to play through, ankle and feet stuff, and that's limited him, which hurts him even more because he's already not a big movement dude. He's not a big change of direction dude, so having banged up wheels hurts him further. But I'm interested to see what Groot does this year. And yeah, Charles, you're spot on saying Groot's learning curve arc is similar to Brown. Yeah, the only difference was, even though he didn't have a ton of reps, he at least had him at Miami So he was playing higher caliber opponents and higher caliber talent. So he had the opportunity to kind of adjust to that to some degree. But yeah, very similar in terms of just guys with tremendous measurables, right? But not necessarily the refinement in their game. Very, very good. Mike said Rousseau is so good as a run defender. Absolutely. Bill says, I haven't heard anyone speak regarding what I think will be a hugely improved our short yardage work from the O line and D line. We've added power in our depth on both sides. I mean, they were pretty good on offense last year. They were sixth in power success rate, which was the percentage of runs on third or fourth down, 2 yards or less to go, that achieved a first down or a touchdown. That also includes runs on first and goal or second and goal from the 2-yard line or closer. I don't know how much it's improved from the O-line perspective. I think McGovern has more moving ability than Morse, but isn't necessarily a people mover. I think Edwards has more people moving ability than McGovern. So yeah, it's probably improved a little bit on the offensive side. Defensively, I think that's fair. Daquan being healthy, Austin Johnson looking like he's going to be in the mix. Maybe Williams beats him out, but I think it's going to be Austin Johnson. I think you've added a little more oomph on the interior on both sides potentially. I don't know if I think it's more marginal than it is like significant, but I think that's overall. I can kind of see why you're feeling that. All right, let's grab this first play for Spencer Brown. This one against every Bills fan's favorite player, Christian Wilkins, who is lined up in a 4 technique head up on Spencer Brown. This one's really nice from Spencer Brown. You get the initial punch. He wins first touch. It's on the collar. Similar to what we saw with Dion Dawkins, right? You got an edge defender who is going for that long arm. Brown sees it. Brown feels it. Chops down. Boom. Snatch trap. There's very few things that are as pretty as a snatch trap. And I know people hear it and like to make jokes. Bang. That's real pretty. Against a very good player in Christian Wilkins. I know Bills fans can't stand him because he's kind of a McJerk face and does some dirty stuff. But Christian Wilkins is tremendous. I don't know if I necessarily want him out in space in one-on-one against a tackle, but this is a great rep from Spencer Brown. Feel that leverage. Boom. And also watch how he goes. So he takes the snap. Aggressive set, right? Cut down that space a little bit because he knows he has the athleticism advantage. So cool, keep him at bay because he's probably not completely blown by you. You have that athleticism advantage. Get your hands on him early. Punch, right? Then you got your left hand on him. You can see him going for that long arm. Brown disconnects. Sees that lean. Once he sees and feels that lean, bang. Chop him down, puts him on skates. Takes him right off his feet. That's a real pretty rep. That's beautiful. Boom. Really good rep from Spencer Brown. Next one from Spencer Brown. Showed a couple throughout this too. Again, that Steelers one as well. But I want this one against the Chargers. Did I not mark Spencer Brown stuff? Annoyed at myself. I didn't. All right, let's get it to the spot so I can just keep coming back to it. Cool. Here's Spencer Brown over here. He's going up against Mr. Tuipulotu, edge defender for the Chargers out here, who is in a wide alignment. This one's a really nice one from Spencer Brown. Nice comp, like how he kind of shoots that foot. Boom, boom. That little stab. Oof. Again, snatch trap again. This is what, and I'm showing these plays for Spencer Brown because, like I mentioned, his issue was just the technique aspect, the hand placement, the hand usage, the refinement of playing offensive tackle. Like, it's awesome to be big and strong and fast and athletic and all that stuff, but do you have the technique? Technique is what survives year in and year out, especially, again, for longevity. At a certain point, you're not going to be this athletic marvel. Or if you get banged up, if your back is killing you or something in your lower body, if your wheels are banged up a little bit and you can't rely on athleticism, and you last and rely on technique. An example I give all the time for things like this is being a pitcher, right? You're throwing 99 earlier in your career. If you want to last at a certain point, what do you do when you're only throwing 95 or 94? Have you developed your other pitches? Do you have a secondary pitch? Do you have a third pitch? Can you locate your breaking ball? What type of stuff can you do? Have you worked in a cutter, something that isn't just pure gas? Do you have movement, spin rate, all that kind of stuff, right? Can you kind of Greg Maddux it or Jamie Moyer it as you get older and kind of be more of a pitcher as opposed to a thrower? But this is another great rep from Brown. Gets out there, wins first touch, a nice punch right on the neckline, almost borderline like hands to the face, right in the throat. I like it. I'm always down for someone to play kind of on the borderline of legal physicality. Gets him right on that neckline. Good punch. Oh, I didn't mean to go real time there. Boom. Gets him right on that neckline, and you see him kind of jack up Tuipulotu. And Tui actually does a pretty good job. Gets his outside hand and forklifts that right arm from Brown. So Brown got that punch with that right arm. Tuipulotu grabs him by the wrist, lifts it, right? So he does a good job. He's like, oh, cool, you're going to punch and try, and you won first touch. You got a good punch. You think you got control? Nah, I'm lifting that arm. So he lifts that arm, and Brown uses that lift to chop down the outside arm. Let's look at it from the other angle. Oh, that's a great job by me. Here we are right over here. We're in the middle of that punch. Boom. Boom. Chops right down. Turns that forklift attempt into a chop. And look where he gets him, right kind of where the bicep meets the forearm, right in that pocket of the elbow. Breaks that contact, gets him down. And then also what's nice too, look how he tries to finish him. Tuipulotu gets up, and so Brown doesn't do too much more. He doesn't want to draw the flag. But that's nice. Get outside. Fires his feet. Boom, boom, boom. Punch, chop. All seamless, technical, precise. Boom. Clean and precise. The feet are clean. The punch is clean. The chop is clean. Snatch, trap, bang. Only thing that's missing is just burying him into the turf. But that's really nice. From Spencer Brown. More of this is going to get him paid. More of this with his athleticism and what he is as a run blocker is going to get him paid if he continues to do stuff like this. And again, this is where he gets, I hate showing film of like dudes who are struggling kind of breaking down that too much because I don't like to drag guys. But see that punch like we talked about again right there? When Brown struggles, this punch, he'll get like the heel of his hand up here more on the shoulder blade. And so that punch doesn't land. And then he's kind of punching and he's not impeding the rusher at all. Or he goes too much and then he's kind of caught leaning forward a little bit. Or he'll go for this punch and he'll hit his hand on the face mask and his hand bounces off. Or his hand hits the front of the face mask and comes off. His biggest struggles for me is hand usage. And it's punch timing and punch placement. This time, both are really good. Good timing. Tuipulotu is on one foot. He's trying to set up his move. Tuipulotu has come off the edge. He's gone with a stab, and he's trying to get outside now. Brown catches him mid-step, and again, that placement. And then Tui does a good job lifting it. Bang, chop down. Really good play. That's a great rep, absolutely, from Spencer Brown. One last one I want to show. I didn't put it into Huddle. So I have to show it from this. Can I do this? Figured it out. Success. All right, where are we? You know, it'd be great if I had that screen. There we go. Can everybody see this? Is it moving? Hooray. Okay, cool. So I don't have the telestrator here because I'm not in Huddle. I'm just in QuickTime. So here, follow my arrow. Here's Spencer Brown over here on that right side against a man in wide alignment. The edge goes for a cross chop. So that cross chop here goes for that jumping cross chop. Usually what you see, so there he's going over with that inside arm, this right arm here, and he's trying to pin Spencer Brown's right arm to his body. So he's trying to cross chop that arm, and then ideally he's going to bring that left arm that you see him kind of sticking out wide, and he's going to club that and kind of bring himself through. What's nice about what Spencer Brown does here, Brown sees this and also feigns his hand, right? Watch Brown come out and he shoots that right hand, thinking, making 45, think, okay, cool. He's going for a punch, but he's not. He's doing it to make him start his move. So he feigns that punch, just a quick little boop, gets 45 to start his move. Now, watch how he uses that to catch him mid move. So here comes the feint. Boom. Makes 45 think, let me start my cross chop. And Spencer Brown jumps him, catches him midair, gets his hands on him, chucks him outside. So now 45 is like, crap, let me regain, try and flatten and get down the line. Hands into the chest, feels the long arm, drops him. Beautiful rep. We'll let it play in real time. Really nice rep from Spencer Brown. Get outside, boom, hit him mid-move, snatch trap, put him into the ground. Real pretty stuff from Spencer Brown. Again, technical, clean, precise, efficient movement, not a lot of wasted movement. And what's nice about this one, too, is it shows that mental piece. It shows the last one that we showed, well, actually both of them, the previous ones I showed, like, those are good technique. This is good technique along with planning. Him showing that right hand, making you think, okay, like here comes the punch. Nope, like he's baiting the edge rusher with this feint right here. He's showing him that punch to get him to start his move. And that's exactly what happens. And then he jumps him mid-jumping cross chop. So now dude's off balance, pushes him out. Guy tries to go through Spencer Brown's chest, catches him leaning too much. So now he feels that lean. He feels that long arm. And watch how he's got both hands on the collar, right? Takes him off, bang, chop down. Great rep. Legitimately great rep. That's extremely strong. Boom. That's what you want to see. Functional intelligence, football IQ, plan, baiting, playing chess when the other guy's playing checkers, and then you see the physicality and the execution and the technique to match and go with it. Really nice stuff from Spencer Brown. What else do we got? RJ says, I remember a bunch of reps where Brown completely misses his man with his punch and then has to scramble to make up for it. That's what it is. You'll see that a lot. When he gets beat, he's often missing with that punch. He's throwing his hands and he's missing, or he's throwing his hands and they're not generative. There's no pop or shock to him because he doesn't have a good base. His footwork is out of whack a little bit. It's just the technical aspects, right? Feet, hands, placement, usage, but a lot of it stems from just that hand placement. Like he's going for a move that he just misses. But again, he cleaned up a lot of that last year. I still don't think it's to the level I'd like it at to give him an extension right now. But in those clips I showed, you see that throughout the season. There's smatterings of it. I don't think it's happening with tremendous regularity like it is with Dawkins. But it's absolutely an element of his game that he worked on, that he got better at, that he added. So I'm excited to see what he is in 2024. Again, just that ceiling that he has, it's not regular. It is rare. So if he continues to build upon that, he really could be something. I'm interested to see what happens with that. And we'll throw up the banner that says Toodles, folks. Gonna start to get out of here. Double dutied tonight. Before anybody leaves, please, thank you. Drop a like on this video here on YouTube if you have not already. But yeah, normally live on Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. Had to flip this week because of some chaos. Greg and Aaron are going tomorrow on Thursday because Greg was traveling for work today. I had some travel work stuff that prevented me from doing the show yesterday. So I went on Wednesday, obviously tonight, but then I also did the film room earlier tonight with Eric. So I pulled double duty. I am about to cough everywhere because I haven't really drank enough during this show, and I am extremely tired. And we hit everything that I wanted to hit in this episode. So we're going to start to wind down here. Want to show some love to the sponsor. I throw it at different points in the show every week. One Pie Pizza. Mentioned him in the intro. You see him in the top. Oh, I'm terrible at this. Nope. Come back this way. There you go. See him in the top corner there. Truly the best pizza in Buffalo, New York. Sweet sauce pie, cup and char pepperoni, homemade blue cheese, a great cheese to sauce ratio. They cook the dough to a good consistency. They ventured into other stuff. They do catering stuff. They make an amazing like array of mac and cheeses, like regular mac and cheese, like barbecue mac and cheese, buffalo chicken, like everything they make just slaps and bangs in a variety of ways. So they do catering stuff. They do a breakfast pie, and they're really good people doing stuff for the community as well. I talk about it all the time. They're partnering with Roswell to knock out cancer, Toys for Tots come holiday season, partnering with the SPCA, the Alzheimer's Foundation. They give back in a lot of ways. And I think that's an awesome thing. And I don't say they're the best pizza in Buffalo because they partnered with me. I partnered with them because they are the best pizza in Buffalo to me. So go get yourself some One Pie Pizza. Online menu can be found in the episode show notes, whether here on YouTube or whichever podcasting app or platform you're listening to this show on. If you're listening on one of the podcasting apps, Google, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever have you, please rate and review and subscribe to Disguise Coverage on those audio platforms. Again, if you're here on YouTube, drop a like on this video, turn on notifications for the Disguise Coverage playlist. Subscribe to the Cover One channel as a whole. We have you covered every single day of the week, pretty much, with varying levels of Bills content. Whatever you're looking for, we have you covered at Cover One. That's not an official tagline, but it kind of sounds like it does, and it fits really well. So I'm going to pat myself on the back for that one. Tell your family and friends and loved ones about this show, about how awesome it is. If you thought the show was terrible, tell your enemies about the show and try and ruin their day by making them watch this show and consuming the content. If there's anything you'd like me to cover, we're starting to get closer to training camp, so we got real football around the corner, but if there's anything specific you want me to break down next week or talk about, or a theme for an episode or film stuff, whatever have you, drop it into the comments on YouTube. You could do it now really fast, but I might not see it in the live chat because the live chat will close. So drop it in the YouTube comments on YouTube if there's anything, or get at me on Twitter at @pro__ant, regardless of whatever form or fashion your support comes in. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you to all who joined me on this episode. Again, I know it's not the regularly scheduled time or the regularly scheduled night, and we're still in summer, and it's the doldrums of the off season and all that kind of stuff. But I appreciate everyone who tuned in, regardless if it was live, post live, whatever have you. But thank you to everyone who joined live. It is nice to do these shows and not be completely alone or by yourself. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Thank you for the kind words that came in throughout the show. Thank you to RJ for that nice comment at the end there. And yes, Joe, you do have to hit the spot whenever you go back to Buffalo. And when you do go back to Buffalo, let me know. Hit me up. Maybe we can go there together because I'm always down to get some One Pie Pizza. Like, I don't really want to hang out with you, but I just want an excuse to get some One Pie Pizza. I'm just kidding. You're fantastic. Actually, no, I'm not kidding because you lied about making a souffle. And I'm still upset about it. So if you come back to Buffalo empty-handed, and by empty-handed, I mean you don't have a souffle with you, it's a green light for you. It's on site. If you don't come to Buffalo with the next time you come to Buffalo, if you don't have a ready-made souffle, it's on site for you, sir. I just wanted to let you know that and give you the heads up, Joe. But yeah, fair. See, you get it. You're a man of principle and honor. Well, I thought you were, and then you lied about the souffle. So who knows? Hope everyone had a good 4th of July and celebrated America's birthday properly and appropriately and also safely. I will see you next Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern, for another episode of Disguise Coverage. And until then, I hope you and your family and friends and loved ones are all doing well and staying safe. Be kind to one another. Take care of one another. I will see you next week. Godspeed. And as always, go Bills.